and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock. Mr. Hamby, we have Quorum Arts Commission is now in session. Before I hand over to the mayor, I want to make a special recommendation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest artist today. Arts Commission always likes to recognize our artists when they're in town. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a little round of applause to Mr. Yvonne Aguayo. Yvonne is probably one of the many celebrated classical guitarists in the world, and we're lucky that he could spend a little time with us today. So with that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and with that, we'll open up the Duncanville City Council joint meeting portion as of 6:01 p.m. And we'll get right into the public comments.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
I don't know, did we collect up any comments?
We did not, but I know that we have people who would like to speak.
Well, seeing that then, let's go by show of hands of who may want to speak. And before we do that, we need to read this one. Let me quickly read this citizen input portion here. In-person comments will be heard during the regular session, during this session, in keeping with the city council rules and procedures adopted on October 2022. Electronic mail comments will no longer be read aloud. Paper copies of the city council advised comments will be made part of the public record in the minutes. Pursuant to section 551.07 of the Texas Government Code, any member of the public has the opportunity to address the city council, and in this case, the Arts Commission, concerning any matter of public business or any posted agenda item. However, the act prohibits the city council or Arts Commission from deliberating any issues not on the public agenda, and such non-agenda issues may be referred to city staff for research and any future action. All persons addressing are subject to council adopted rules and limitations permitted by law. At this time, 2-minute comments will be taken from the audience on any topic. So each person, I think, is familiar with the rules. Please state your name and address for the record, and then will we have some time?
So, Mr. Mayor, Staff Liaison Alice Hamby's going to have time for us.
All right.
There aren't the little sign sheets that we normally have.
Well, which is, yeah, that's exactly what under these circumstances. So, who would like to speak first? Yes, sir.
All right. Do I stand up in the front, in the middle?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Hello, my name is Kaylin Y. McGuire. I have been a Duncanville resident since I was in the elementary, Maryfield Elementary. And my gifts that I do, which is painting, drawing, taking someone's literature, rhetoric, and making it into a visual. This is one of the books that I've illustrated along with a past teacher at Duncanville High School. She was a construction teacher. This work is about a young black girl who's a carpenter, and she wants to create her dream village via through her skills of carpentry and wisdom and knowledge. All to say, a lot of these images on here, I put it into a proposal for the Duncanville Library, and I imposed them on the wall as to do a mural to then liven up the space. If not that, I know that my vessel is here to be open a bridge of the youth, the young and the old, and make sure that we can still have our stories in a picturesque format that can still, I don't know, how can I say it? It aids to our inspiration and education, and just forward progression as we evolve as humanity all together. And so if I have the eyes and also the tradesmanship to do so, I just wanted to let y'all know that I'm available, I'm here, and look forward to having any further conversations with you all about how we can both partner together.
Sir, before you leave, could you tell us your name and your address, please?
Kaylin Y. McGuire. My address is 622 Truman Court, Duncanville, Texas.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Thank you so much, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Arts Commission, so good to see you all working together like this. I want to start out by saying, and give a shout out, as it were, to the Arts Commission for their supremely successful Juneteenth pop-up event that was celebrated last week. And for the remainder of my comments, I have some acts, some challenges, some recommendations. However, it feels comfortable for you to tag them. And they are, I request that an individual from the Arts Commission be represented on the upcoming ongoing city strategic plan initiative. I want to let you know that I support a cultural district on Main Street from Camp Wisdom southward to Daniel. Just wanted to take up the widest possible area I could think of. Anyway. 3, I encourage the city manager to coordinate planning for special events that would be funded by hotel tax revenues with the Arts Commission. Optimally, some multi-day events are would be city hosted, and the Arts Commission would host other multi-day events. Section 351.103C states no more than 15% of the total sales tax collected can be used to promote the arts. The current year's hotel tax revenue is budgeted for $893,000. 15% of this amount is $133,950. I suggest that the Arts Commission immediately forward a budget request to the city for fiscal year 24-25 for $133,950. The budget is being prepared even as we speak. And so, if you want to see your share immediately, as I used to say when I was growing up, immediately, if not sooner, put in your request. To accompany this request, I recommend the Arts Commission develop a program of work to increase community engagement and appreciation of the arts, celebrating the diversity of the city of Champions, Duncanville, Texas. Finally, I urge the city and the Arts Commission to work together to establish a cultural arts center located in the city's cultural arts district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Patrick Harvey. You think I know better, right? Patrick Harvey. Where I live? 1010 Huntington, Duncanville, Texas, 75137. As someone else would say, I've been here since '89.
Yeah.
Hi, Erica Browning, 442 East Cherry Street. Thank you to the Arts Commission. I really appreciate your presence in our city and what you've done so far. I am here to say that I am in favor of establishing a cultural district. I think that's something that you all would like to talk to the city about. A cultural district is a designated area that celebrates and promotes the cultural heritage, artistic expression, and community identity of a city. The benefits of a cultural district in a city are numerous and can have a significant impact on the community, economy, and overall quality of life. Some of the economic benefits of a cultural district are tourism, job creation, business recruitment, and increased property values. Some of the cultural benefits of a cultural district are preservation of heritage, community engagement, cultural exchange, and artistic expression. Some of the social benefits of a cultural district are quality of life, community identity, and education. Some other benefits of a cultural district in Duncanville are urban revitalization, collaboration, because a cultural district can facilitate collaboration between local organizations, businesses, and community groups. And marketing and promotion. A cultural district can provide a platform for marketing and promoting the city's cultural attractions and events. Overall, a cultural district can have a profound impact on a city, promoting economic growth, cultural preservation, and social cohesion, while enhancing the quality of life for residents and visitors alike. There are a lot of people in this city who are very much in favor of this. And so you can expect to hear more from some of those citizens in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to speak tonight? Yes, sir.
Mark Graham, 410 Santa Fe Trail. This is gonna be simple. Whatever we have working right now isn't. These folks on the Arts Commission, I think if you'll listen to this and what they're wanting to do, if you separate the arts out from under the, I don't want to say under the thumb of the city, but I think that these folks are a lot more equipped to deal with artists, to deal with shows. Instead of having to go through somebody in the city to do it, reach out to the people that have knowledge and let them do it. Arts reflect the city, and I want you to look around now and tell me what's it reflecting, because we have almost no art in the city. I know there is, but there's not much, and it's wide open. We should have murals, we should have galleries, we should have shows all the time out here. This is a rich area, and none of it's really happening. They've done some. We need to do a lot more. Thanks.
Anyone else? That will conclude our public comments session. Item number 3. We'll move into getting briefing on proposed cultural district.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. I'm going to step back here to the giant TV behind you. Let me know if, I don't know what I can do to make it easier for anyone out here to see, but I'm going to offer. Let me know if I can do anything. Mr. Mayor, City Manager, City Council, my fellow Arts Commissioners, arts lovers in Duncanville. We have been trying since January 23rd to get in this room, to have us all together. Third time's a charm. It's important to recognize the Arts Commission is brand new to the city of Duncanville. We're a baby commission, so it's also, I want to do a little swagger here. We're actually, as far as I know, we're the biggest commission, and I think we're the most active. So I think that reflects a lot about the enthusiasm for the arts in Duncanville. As we're a new commission, I like to do a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to talk about what we hope to get at the end of this meeting, as far as recommendations to City Council. And I'm going to have a little bit of description about what the Arts Commission is. In March, I think on March 24th, the Arts Commission unanimously voted to create a cultural district through the Texas Commission for the Arts, develop a funding mechanism to it, both private and public. And so at the end of this, we are going to recommend a line item for arts within the city and DCDC budgets to evaluate current arts funding models and strategies. I'm going to go ahead and give a little caveats on all of these. Any sort of grant request or anything that has to do with arts funding, Arts Commission has a final say in arts grants, sponsorships, and programming. A line item for a cultural district and a seed of $1 million from the DCED hot fund balance to a cultural district development fund to be disseminated through grants and contracts for arts programming, capital development, capacity building within proposed cultural district, And the proposed cultural district we'll get to encompasses a lot of other boards and commissions and activity. But with regard to arts grants, sponsorships, and programming, we would like the buck stop the Arts Commission. We would like for the City Council to recognize and support a nonprofit, community-driven cultural district foundation. That's not meaning that we're asking for the city to fund a foundation. We're asking for priority eligibility to contract with the city and DCEDC. And free use of city-owned space and city-owned managed technology to conduct education, outreach, and fundraising activity. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but this is a separate 501c3 nonprofit organization, community-driven. IRS rules require that there's a firewall between municipalities and 501c3s, so this is definitely a community approach to private fundraising. We're going to ask for you to recognize October as National Arts and Humanities Month through a proclamation. And we're going to ask for you to contract with the Texas Guitar Society up to $49,000 for turnkey arts programs development, deployment, and management through the end of the current fiscal year to be completed through the next. Since we are a new commission, I'm going to go ahead and do a little housekeeping and talk about what the duties and powers given to this Arts Commission from the City Council when we're established. And as the commission shall solicit applications for arts events, review and hear requests for funding, schedule interviews, adopt guidelines and criteria for applicants requesting funding. The commission will advise City Council on the expenditure of hotel motel tax allocation for the arts. And then it goes on to the role of the chairman. The commission may also seek and administer funding by state, federal, and private grants, gifts, and admission fees as provided herein. We may also decline the aforementioned. And the commission may itself produce and promote a cultural arts event or projects in addition to and apart from its role as a funding source for arts commissions, grants to other groups and individuals. Events or projects may also include a public permanent art component. So I say all that because the recommendations that Arts Commission is going to be making to you today, I guess I'm looking like over there, that I'm making you today, really leans into our full body of powers and duties that have been granted to us. And as a new commission, it's important to understand some challenges that we've had. When the Arts Commission was first created, it was done so with a mission statement and certain powers and duties, but there was no mechanism in which to operate within the structure of City Hall. So what that ostensibly means is, for everyone but us, Arts Commission has been a side hustle. And I don't say that in pejorative, because honestly, staff moves mountains for us. We have a wonderful staff that wants to have a successful Arts Commission. But when it's not your primary job, and when we don't have a way to direct staff or direct funding, it ostensibly becomes everybody's side hustle. So what happens is when people get a pinch in their day job, the side hustle doesn't get the full attention that we would like for it to get. There's always a disappointing result. And we don't want disappointing results. Arts funding is derived from multiple disparate sources tied to the knowledge banks of individual city staff members. So I'm going to say the thing that everyone is sick and tired of hearing. Somebody who no longer works here said this thing to us. That has been one of our biggest challenges. When the Arts Commission was first created, and we had a first meeting, the then Director of Economic Development came to us and explained to us how we would work, and explained to us any initial funding allocation that was made available to us. And then everything changed. Staff changes, expectations change. With the big upheaval in staff, there's also the learning curve as new hiring goes. So the expectation for the way that the Arts Commission was going to work just never hit the ground. Arts Commission, immensely dedicated. I always use the analogy, Arts Commission always come together. It's really important to say that Arts Commission has never missed a meeting. We've always made quorum. It's always almost 100%. The only time we have not had 100% attendance is when folks are out of the country or they were attending funerals. Often the case of this is decisions for funding to the arts is siloed outside of the purview of the Arts Commission. We're a new commission. People really don't know about us. Other boards, Parks and Rec, other ones really don't know what we're supposed to do or how we're supposed to work together. So I was at the joint meeting with City Council and Parks and Rec, and I was listening to their request from City Council, and I kept thinking, that's arts, that's arts, that's arts. It all sounds like arts to me. So there's lots of opportunity for us to work together, because right now that we are siloed around from other decision makers. And at our last regular meeting, Arts Commission came to consensus that for every decision we're going to make for the Arts Commission, we're going to look at other boards and other commissions, other departments, and find out how do we collaborate with them. We don't like to be on the outside, and we think that the arts contribute to the livability of the community at every level, so let's lean into that. From the perspective of delivering services to arts organizations and individual artists, hot fund distribution, if you don't know, is a reimbursement policy. So if you're an individual artist, or if you're a small arts organization, and you come to request funding, and you're able to get it, you actually have to do all this stuff. You have to perform whatever it is you're asking for the grant request for, and then at the completion, and with sometimes onerous reporting, then the city will reimburse you. That's not equitable for the arts. It's absolutely not sustainable for the arts organizations. I know that we have a legend of a community theater, Amy Jackson. She's up to it, but it's still is a burden. Commission and staff are at capacity bandwidth. I wanted to be really clear. When everyone is hearing what I'm saying nothing as a criticism. I'm saying everything as a matter of fact. So if this sounds critical, it's not my intention. We're at bandwidth. We're at total bandwidth. Our Juneteenth event almost didn't happen. And it certainly didn't happen the way they were originally approved for it to happen. Arts Commission just stepped up. Alex Haney stepped up. Mr. Finch stepped up. Ms. Gooden stepped up. And we made it happen. As a comparison, I was probably one of the commissioners who spent the least time at the library during Juneteenth. But in total, I probably spent about 14 hours there. The majority of it was holding vigil over the art. You can imagine thousands of dollars worth of original art and kids walking from the rec center to the library. The Perrys went head first and added additional programming that there wasn't funding for, that we were certainly hoping there was funding for. A reminder, Juneteenth is a national holiday. Arts Commission, we had our very first activity, our very first program as Juneteenth when the city of Duncanville hosted it. It's really important for us that we get the recognition and the artists who contribute to it get recognized for it. But this represented a significant time burden on all of this. It was important, but it was hard. It was really hard. I will tell you this. In my 13 hours of standing vigil, one of the coolest things was everybody stopped to look at the art. Everyone stopped to look at the harvest collection. Everyone stopped and had conversations. I saw this one girl bad at judging age of children. She was probably about junior high, barely in. And she was talking to her mother. She was looking at the harvest collection, and she was telling her what all the masks meant. They were collected from 4 different countries, and this girl's evidently talked about. You would see people exiting in and out of the library, and they were stopping to look at the art. Duncanville loves art. And so, for as salty as I am for having to spend that time there, it was worth it. It was worth it. More important than that, we kept a promise to you, and we kept a promise to the community. When the Arts Commission makes a promise, we're going to step up. It's difficult to access information about art-related funding because there's never been an Arts Commission. There's not a line item for the arts. And so funding that goes to the arts, it's not like we can just print out a spreadsheet that has all the arts funding. So it's difficult to be strategic. It's difficult to understand what the metrics are when you're assigning to any sort of public funding that goes for the arts. And what all this comes down to is it limits our pathways to respond to community enthusiasm. I think you've probably heard everyone's excited about the Arts Commission. And one of the cool things about what we do that's very disappointing is when people come to us, oh, I love that there's an Arts Commission. Can we do this? Can we do this? Have you thought about doing this? Could we possibly do this? Gosh, I hope so. So it's important that City Council understands by creating an Arts Commission, you did a good thing for the community. I believe that wholeheartedly. So now to go on into the item, this is the briefing on the proposed cultural district. It's important for me to understand, it's important for me that you understand how the Arts Commission got started, what we struggled with, what we overcome, and we're all here. So Arts Commission, if you haven't already heard, we have a cultural district in the city of Duncanville. Cultural districts are overlay districts, in this case, created by the Texas Commission for the Arts. Our recommendation is making Armstrong Park at the heart of it, including adjacent walkable areas along Main Street, East Center, and East Wheatland Road. So to start off, we're kind of looking at this vision. I'm going to talk a lot about cultural districts and water reporting. They need to be diverse. They need to have a cross-reference of different kinds of activities in there. So we have some schools, we have some private development, we have obviously all the amenities with the Armstrong Park, we have the Duncanville Community Theater, we have Lions Club, we have Old Panther Stadium, and in a Friday Night Lights community, I consider that a cultural attribute as well. And then all the adjacent property and main station over here at Wheatland Plaza, and then obviously around Main Street. That's important because most artists need a home, and underutilized property represents an opportunity for someone trying to build a cultural district. So everything I'm going to tell you about, this is not me. This is the state of Texas. So it's really important that I'm not providing to you an opinion. I'm providing you what the state of Texas calls a cultural district and what their expectations for. So a cultural district was authorized by House Bill 2208 in the 79th Legislature of the great state of Texas, that the Texas Commission for the Arts can designate a cultural districts in cities across Texas. Cultural districts are special zones that harness the power of cultural resources to stimulate economic development and community vitality. These districts become focal points for generating business, attracting tourists, stimulating cultural development, and fostering civic pride. I swear I did not write this, but this seems like they knew about DCDC when they wrote it. And you will see this, by the way, I built this in a website, so you can go to duncanvillarts.com and at any moment go and look at our presentation. You can also read the citations and the studies and the remarks on there. It's robust. So what is some cultural districts in Texas you may not know? Obviously, One Arts Plaza, the cultural district in Dallas. This is Fair Park. Deep Ellum is a cultural district. Denton is a cultural district. Winsboro, and I put Winsboro in here because if you'll notice, what I've been highlighting so far have been big city affluent communities. Winsboro has 3,500 people in it. Their cultural district was used as part of a study through the Texas Commission of Arts to demonstrate the return on it. We'll go about the return. But Little Winsboro, Texas, has almost 300 people employed in a cultural district. And it has returned on the tax basis around $60,000 just from that, which 3,500 people. So the same process that Little Winsboro, Texas goes through with 3,500 people is the same process that the city of Dallas goes through. So whereas the city of Dallas Cultural District has multi-billionaires from US and mayors, Winsboro doesn't. So the attempt to achieve a cultural district designation has nothing to do with financial ability of the community to support it. It needs to be scaled to the community. So when I say the community can't support it, it has to be scaled to the community where it can't support it. And then of course, plan. I'm going to talk about more. So this is the state of Texas. Why is the state of Texas investing so much energy in the cultural districts? Goals of cultural districts. A thriving creative sector is a powerful economic development asset. Cultural district designation is one strategy that helps a community boost their economies while realizing other cultural and civic benefits. The outcomes of cultural districts extend far beyond ours and can benefit all members of the community. Keep in mind all of this. The state of Texas doesn't make recommendations without showing you receipts. Within all of this, if you have a chance to go back and look at our presentation, it has all the reporting, all the studies done by the state of Texas and various cultural organizations. Attracting artists and cultural enterprises to the community. Artists, cultural institutions, and creative enterprises all contribute to a community's economic potential. Not only do they generate direct economic activity, but artists and creative entrepreneurs infuse communities with energy and innovation. You will notice on the agenda, nowhere does it say events. Events are a product. The arts is a multi-billion-dollar sector that we need to participate in. So one of the challenges I, as chair of the Arts Commission, deal with is when people say, well, tell us about your events. Well, how many events are you going to do next year? Well, it's not about events. It's about absolutely changing the cultural landscape of Duncanville with the cultural district and all the things that go with it. So it's really important that we all start using the language that the Arts Commission does. Events are a product. It encourages business and job development. Cultural districts can create a hub of economic activity that contribute to the community, being an appealing place to live, visit, and conduct business. A thriving cultural scene helps an area to prosper, and consumers drawn to cultural attractions patronize other nearby businesses. This can result in the creation of new economic opportunities. So I want to take about a conversation I had with a local over there in over in the Wheeler Plaza. He was showing me one of their new collaborative spaces, and it was over here, and it was meant to be for touching artists. And we're looking at it and talking with them, and some of these are illustrators. You know, one of the things that we're talking about doing is creating a community mural program. Can you start putting a bunch of muralists, professional muraling artists? And then while you're at it, can the little school shop every season, can they actually provide the art supplies for the artist to use? And then we stop having a conversation about murals, and we start having a conversation about retail. We're having a conversation about job creation. And we're having a conversation, well, if they stay here, are there other private entities that can hire them to do other kinds of things? So it immediately changes when you recognize the arts is a sector that has supply chains. It has employees. It has funding mechanisms. And if we lean into one, adjacent industries need to fit in to that thing which we think is important. It addresses specific needs of a community. Cultural districts are highly adaptable economic development tools that allow a community to make use of unique conditions, assets, and opportunities. This is why it's really important. Our cultural district needs to look like Duncanville. How do we decide what Duncanville looks like? Well, we lean to our artists. Our artists will tell us what Duncanville looks like. The things they create, the things that they compose, the things that they orchestrate. That is going to be the truest indication of what Duncanville looks like. Establishing tourism destinations. Cultural districts are marketable tourism assets that highlight the distinct identity of a community and encourage in-state, out-of-state, and international visitors. I think it's common knowledge if you put on a show, if you have an exhibit, if you have a reason to bring people in, you're going to have a tourism attractor. You're going to have a visitor attraction. Is it just about the number of people who come to attend something? Not necessarily. It's about the quality of art that this city incubates. It preserves and reuses historic buildings. Some cultural districts are very involved in historic preservation, adaptive reuse, and rehab of older buildings through preservation tax credits can result in structural and facade improvements. These rehabilitated buildings provide opportunities for affordable artists, livable space, and new homes in cultural districts. How many underused spaces do we have in Duncanville? that you think, wouldn't it be great if there was a gallery? Wouldn't it be great if there was a performance hall? Wouldn't it be great if there was a makerspace? Wouldn't it be great if there was something that we could put creative enterprise in? And if you don't think the entire community isn't already eyeing the tax building, you haven't been talking to folks. That is already a hot item. Folks in this community want the tax building to be some kind of multi-purpose arts facility. Enhancing the property values. Successful districts combine improvements to public spaces such as parks, waterfronts, pedestrian corridors, along with property development. And it goes on to talk about, obviously, if you're creating a vibrant place for people to go to explore, it's going to improve the property values. And again, this is something that the city can get the pump primed, but ultimately, if you think of every successful creative district you think of, at some point, the artist community get in here and make it work. Fostering local cultural development, establishment of cultural provides a focal point for celebrating and strengthening our community's cultural identity. Duncanville is a very diverse community. I'm not particularly interested in deciding what our cultural identity is. I would much rather defer that to the creative community, artistic communities to do it for us. And that's why I say, if you want to know what we're like, if you want to know what we smell like, what we eat, leave it to the artists. Create a safe place for artists to develop their work. So here's one of the most important things. This is why is the state of Texas leaning into this? Because according to a recent study from the Texas Cultural Trust, the 2023 State of the Arts Report, the impact of public grant funding for cultural districts far surpassed the initial public investment, earning a 2-to-1 return on investment. That means we got to get it started. Artists are entrepreneurs. Let's not forget that. Artists are entrepreneurs. That which they create, they have to sell, they have to license, they have to distribute, they have to install. They're entrepreneurs. And all of those things I just listed require other kinds of industries to get involved as well. This is, when you get a chance, this is a really cool study to read and go back if you want to deep dive. So in Texas, there are 45 cultural districts. There are 3 in Dallas County. There are none south of Dallas until you get somewhere around Clifton and Waco. None. So what would it mean to little Duncanville to establish the first cultural district south of Dallas and the only in that Southwest community? How is that not a bragging fact? How is that not something to deep dive on? Cultural districts can be part of a creative placemaking and place-keeping efforts. It's important to remember that the Texas Commission for the Arts Cultural District designation is most likely to be awarded to a district that is already defined in terms of leadership, geographic boundaries, branding, and current assets. What does that mean? We have to start treating our proposed cultural district as a cultural district. It means as soon as we can activate it, we activate it. I understand that there's a comprehensive plan committee. I think that those who are involved in the cultural district can advise the comprehensive plan, but I think it's pretty obvious that we have an opportunity. I think it's obvious that the community wants it, and I would hate for this to be stymied by 8 months of the comprehensive plan. And what we learn is folks want the arts in Armstrong Park. It's also important, and I haven't mentioned this, the reason why this is important to get to the Texas Commission for the Arts, because once we have that designation, by the way, if we apply today, we would get it. We have to do a lot of work. It doesn't cost us anything, but we have to come together. Is those with that designation are then eligible for money from the state to invest in that cultural district. The state believes in cultural districts, so once we go through what we have to go through to get that designation, we're then eligible for grants from the state. I will tell you, Texas is pretty generous for the arts. And now when I started doing venture development in the arts 30 years ago, and at the time, Texas was 53 behind Guam in supporting the arts. That is no longer the case. We're around 4. It has a lot to do with, we're a really big state with a lot of money. So the percentages in which we invest into the arts, it means a lot more than it would to like a smaller state. So the reason I mention that is it's important because we get to bring the entire community together and it's a cool project, and it's something that people are gonna own, but then we're eligible for outside funding, and also institutional funders, grants, corporate and private community, they like to see, to contribute to projects like this because there's a known return. So while it won't require any rezoning, and again, it's an overlay district, it will not change the zoning, so we don't have to worry about that. And it doesn't require the city put up any additional funding because again, I mean, outside of what we're gonna propose, because it has to be done to scale. The district has to be something that the city can manage. But it will require that we come together. And that puts us to item 4, a briefing on a proposed 501c3 cultural district foundation. 501c3 nonprofit organization is almost standard with every cultural district. The Texas Commission for the Arts requires that there be a lot of nonprofit activity, that there be a multiplicity of funding opportunities. We have a 4B board, we can have a 501c3. We do have cultural institutions in the proposed cultural district that already have their own fundraising activities, their own community development. But it's really critical that the 501c3 be established because it does the stakeholder building. It's the thing that Arts Commission can't do, it's the thing that the 4B board can't do, it's the thing that City Council can't do. It's the thing that brings all the community together in innovative ways without municipal restrictions. So I put this as an example. So obviously it's a community-driven stakeholder development. When I call stakeholder, I'm talking about artists, I'm talking about people who live here, I'm talking about developers, I'm talking about property owners, I'm talking about artists, I'm talking about industries that support arts, I'm talking about funding organizations, I'm talking about patrons, I'm talking about ticket buyers, I'm talking about visitors, I'm talking about it all. These are stakeholders, and it's robust. And you can already imagine, it's exciting to think of all of these people coming together within a cultural district. Its activity as municipal, this, like I just explained, the 501c3 can do what the others can't do. And we work better together. So a commission, a nonprofit, a 4B, and all the other assorted that I'm going to talk about, we all have to do this together. So I use this example. In Dallas, there's Dallas Jazz Appreciation Month, and it's been going on for several years. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I want you to look at the bottom of this. This is an algorithm. This is a mathematical equation on what healthy support for the arts looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and outline everything that's there. It's an arts incubator. The Salmon Center for the Arts is the organization that hosts the Jazz Dallas. It's an event within a cultural district, the Dallas Arts District. Within the Cultural District Foundation, the Dallas Arts District Foundation. A city and a commission, they have a cultural office, they have a $20 million office, and they support it. A visitor center, a private foundation, arts funding organization, Texas Commission for the Arts, and cultural business and vendors. So if you look at this, at the bottom, this is the equation. The City of Dallas Arts and Culture, that's the equivalent of the Arts Commission, but it's not. The Dallas Arts District Foundation, that's the assigned 501c3 to the Dallas Arts District. And the Moody Fund for the Arts is an established funding, institutional funder. TACA is a fundraising organization with the arts. The Texas Commission for the Arts, obviously. And this is the Visitor Center. And if you look on, all the businesses that step up and support the event. This is an algorithm. So when we talk about bringing stakeholders together, think about this algorithm. So that leads us to item 5, briefing on a proposed cultural district program. Outside of the cultural district, we need to understand what arts funding is happening in the city. So we asked for a line item for the arts. It's within the city and DCDC budgets to evaluate current arts funding models and strategies throughout the city. So right now, we can't go and just get a printout of all the funding for the arts because there's no line item for the arts. Having a line item for the arts in general will allow those who create the budget to determine what the strategies are, what the metrics are, is there overlap, is there compete with the boards. And that's also why Arts Commission tends to flex. If it's to deal with arts programming, that looks like bias. Let us know what's going on. And also, this is a line item for the cultural district. I I know everyone hyperventilates when they see that number, but there's a reason for it. So the line item for a cultural district, gonna see a $1 million from the DCDC hot fund balance to a cultural district development fund. It is disseminated through grants and contracts for arts programming, capital development, and capacity building within the proposed cultural district. So where do we get that number? When we were first established, the then Director of Development Services explained to us how much was available within the hot funds. He went on to explain that the balance of the fund continues to grow because there's objective applicants for arts fund. So I went to the Texas Comptroller's office to see what's on available in the public record. Through 2023 annual reporting filing, so kudos to economic development. Last year they reported total revenue of a little over $3 million, total expenditures of just under $2 million, and the fund balance is $6.8 million. And what was briefed Arts Commission as a time, think big. Because hotels and motels are contributing to this fund, and they would like to see the money used. Particularly if we have a conversation about increasing any of the tax percentage. This is a robust model. This is a tool for economic development through cultural enterprise. And so we're not asking for someone to write an Arts Commission and check for $1 million. What we're asking is, from that fund balance, create a silent fund. Call it the Cultural District Comprehensive Development Fund. It's there to do two things. Provide funding for capital development and capacity building within the proposed cultural district. Who benefits from that? Economic development benefits that because there's businesses there. Parks and Rec benefits that because Armstrong Park. Arts Commission benefits that because we're going to recommend that at least half of that fund go to grants. So municipalities, as I understand it, can't necessarily write grants. They have to go through purchasing. So I'll go through and how we approach that. But the important thing is that there's $1 million fund that's equitable and is transparent. All the boards and commissions in the city get to benefit from this. It is one of the most robust tools that we can offer to economic development. And it's all done through cultural investment. So I'm going to also go in here. I understand Mr. Harvey mentioned that there was 50% cap on spending. I'm going to suggest that doing this through a cultural district, we are broadening the eligibility of hot funds within the proposed cultural district. Why do I say that? Because I'm going to remind you what the state of Texas called a cultural district. It's a special zone to harness the power of cultural resources to stimulate economic development and community vitality. These districts can become focal points for generating businesses, attracting tourists, stimulating cultural development, and fostering civic pride. So from that fund, I understand this, and it's not meant to touch the other things that economic development is funding with the parents. That's when we have the line item. Specifically for that $1 million fund, I would suggest that it actually broadens our eligibility within the cultural district. We also recognize that all things applied would not be eligible for hot funds. That's okay. That's the opportunity to bring in private funders. That's the opportunity to bring private donors. That's the opportunity to lean into other fundraising elements. So just as a matter of functioning, we're able to develop our donor base, audience development, patron base, and that algorithm I showed you, that's what we're going to. So it doesn't matter if not everything is eligible. Parts of it could be. Or parts of it could be partnered with private funding enterprise. Grants and sponsorship. So we need a funding cycle. So Arts Commission is recommended every 6 months. It could be every quarter, but starting off perhaps every 6 months. Why is that important? Because we have to look at bandwidth. Most funding organizations have a grant cycle, unless they're the Mendes Foundation and have billions of dollars to get you on checks. Why is that important? Because we have 5 months to look at all the applications made to the Arts Commission. We have 5 months to say, okay, we're getting a lot of requests for this. Well, if there's going to be a lot of this, then we need some capital development over here. There's going to be some capacity development over here. And maybe we have to invest in this other thing, and it's not really eligible for the hot fund, so let's start leading into our private donors. That allows us to be strategic to funding. It's really important that just because someone submits a grant request, and it's phenomenal. Grant making is problem solving. We use money to solve problems in the community. In this case, we're doing through the arts and cultural development. So we have to see the full breadth of what's being done over a finite period of time. We've recommended 6 months. Grants reviewed by the Arts Commission with participation from community panels. Chances are, our little commission, if we're incredibly successful, we will be able to review all of them. It's a great opportunity to create community panels to review grant requests. Most municipalities do that, most funding agencies do that. Is if you want to again to fund things that look like the community, make sure the community is determined where the funding is going. So these would be reviewed and approved by the Arts Commission. They'd be funded through DCDC. This is a recommendation. If it's something that DCDC cannot write a grant for or fund, theoretically, they could create a contract with 501c3 to disseminate the grant funds, to manage them and to record them. And so rather than the arts community have the burden of trying to figure out, well, you know, where are my receipts for all this, and do I have to wait to get paid, and all those things that we're saying are equitable for the arts, well, the nonprofit can absorb that, do the reporting that's necessary for DCDC, but from the art side, we're letting them loose. That is not an original idea. That happens a lot in municipalities that have this kind of funding structure. So what are we talking about when we're talking about capital improvement funding within this? We're talking about Hopkins. I was at the meeting with economic development with Parks and Rec, and they kept talking about rebranding Hopkins. Maybe there wasn't enough senior services. How do we jazz it up? And they kept talking about those things, and that's why I was saying right there, arts. We hear when we talk about the arts. The Pohawk National Theater, the music room, outdoor exhibitions, signage, wayfinding from other parts of town, and highways and cultural district. The Texas Commission for the Arts really wants there to be a sign from the highway that points to the cultural district. So within this cultural district, none of this is a direct Arts Commission beneficiary. These affect other boards and commissions. And we know some of the stuff that's already being funded and looked at, this addresses. Capacity building. Capacity is people. Capitals, buildings, and things. Capacity is people. So fund administration within City Hall, leadership development, endowment building, fundraising training, stakeholder development, City Hall management. If we're going to have somebody in City Hall, we need to make sure they understand the way that the arts work. Why is that important? I've talked to a lot of artists. They're incredibly talented, but they need business skills training. They need to know how to reach a certain market. They need to know how to do business because, again, artists are individuals, and while they can be really good at that craft, they could still use, they would benefit from other kinds of training that happen through capacity building. We can wrap all of this in a cultural district tourism campaign. So it continues to be something that I think that economic development would consider just a robust boon for them. Exhibitions, performances, an arts incubation, artist residency, restaurants, galleries, I'm going to say it, events, signature and otherwise. All of this contributes to visitor attraction. Can you imagine like the public relations campaign we do? Of all places, Duncanville, Texas is going to endeavor to create a cultural district. And of course we're going to knock it out. I've invited a lot of arts administrators from Duncanville, some of them from Dallas, some of the most prominent arts administrators in the state. And you know what they say every single time when they come to Duncanville? This is where the opportunity is. And I say something very naively, and again, I'm not naive to the industry, and I say, well, we're so close to Dallas. It's so easy for artists to just pick up and go to Dallas where all the stuff is, or go to Fort Worth where all the stuff is. No. Dallas is full. Dallas is expensive. Young, emerging, mid-sized arts organizations, both visual and performing, need places to incubate. I brought Joanna Angelo from the Salmon Center for the Arts. I mention that because it's a national model. It's the largest and oldest arts incubator in the country. And they grow the arts. They have hundreds of arts organizations attached to them. They said right now there's a waiting list to get in of about 40. And they approach these arts organizations from various levels of development. From people who just need a mailbox, to people who need a cube, from people who need an office, from people who need rehearsal space, meeting space, understand that when you see a performance or you see an exhibition, that's only the first thing that you see. What needs to happen is significantly thicker than just that. I use the sloppy analogy. If you go to the bank and the only person you talk to is the teller, if you think the whole thing the bank does is what that teller does, you don't know what a bank does. So understand everything that you see, whether it's performing or visual, there needs to be an office behind it. There needs to be a studio behind it. There needs to be a workspace behind it. There needs to be rehearsal space behind it. There needs to be performance space behind it. There needs to be technology behind it. That thing that people call an event, that's a product. And this is what's required to create that product. So you can imagine if we decided to really lean into this, we're building a whole industry in Duncanville that I'm told, the executive director, she's been the executive director of the Sandus Center for the Arts for 36 years. She said, I see the opportunity for you guys to be incubator years. I could go on, yet I digress. Here's the other thing. My experience, again, venture development, philanthropy, nonprofit. I've started many a nonprofit organization. I've started many for-profit arts enterprises. My experience is art begets art and money begets money. This is a conversation about transparency. It's not about art and it's not about money. And this could be what transparency looks like. I use the example of the Meadows Foundation. This is one of $2 billion foundations in Texas not attached to a university. So you've probably heard of Meadows Foundation. So every time they submit a grant, this is their level of transparency. We can do this. This is the organization that got the grant. This is what it was for. This is how much it was. That doesn't exist here yet. It can. Why is that important? Because this will bring people in. If we're this transparent, folks are going to come to Duncanville. Folks are going to lean into the opportunity. If we're this transparent, funders are going to fund projects in Duncanville. And that's what we want. I'm talking about the nonprofit and the commercial level. Because we're showing them what we're spending. One of the disadvantages of having hot funds being inequitable for the arts is it can kill an art. Artists, arts organizations require the comforting effect that funders have when they know that other people are funding. If you've ever worked in philanthropy, or if you've ever worked with institutional funders, you know what happens. They'll say, "Don't get a grant request. I'm sorry, this is not something that we can do right now. It's a great mission, but I'm going to take this to such and such." More often than not, funds that go unanswered through one funding organization get referred by others. Because remember, grant making is solution making with money. It doesn't mean that what's being recommended isn't positive. It means it doesn't meet the solution that we're looking for, but who else can? So this level of transparency, the community would love it, economic development would love it, the hotels and motels would love it, the community, right, is that the community? And basically, again, it would attract more money and more art. That's one suggestion for transparency. So the proposed cultural district needs to be treated like a cultural district now. Texas Commission for the Arts likes that the municipalities that submit requests, that we already treat it like a cultural district. So that's really easy for us because folks here want to see a cultural district. It puts the onus on the community, not City Hall, to create and lean into arts forward opportunities. I want you to know I'm going to say this a lot. This is not a criticism. When I say the arts don't belong in City Hall, I say that because the arts belong to the community, belongs to the public. The public will direct the direction of the arts for a community. If they don't, it's not our fault. it's the community. In this plan, it takes probably arguably the most loved piece of property in Duncanville and gives the community more reasons to live it. I'm talking about Armstrong Park. That's the heart of our cultural district. And we're able just to rattle everybody's teeth with new kinds of innovation and bust at the seams with art, 365 days of arts experiences. Can you do that? Absolutely, it happens all over. I say this all the time as an example because people say the market is too small and our level of affluence is not what's necessary. I have a home in Taos, New Mexico. All of Taos County is smaller than Duncanville, and it's not an affluent. And you know what they have? What's Taos known for? Skiing, the Pueblo, and the arts. And there are a multiplicity of funding organizations. It's to scale. If you're going to compare what we do to what happens in Houston, where there are $1 billion donors, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We create it to scale, and I believe that people will step up. We have a tradition. The Duncanville Community Theater, the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, the library. How many different people? The Education Foundation, because I'm listing people out. It's not my intention. But how often do we see people step up to fund projects that are important to them? There's no reason to think that the arts community won't do the same as well. Establishes a platform for individual and artist development. I say this later on in the presentation. It's really important. Another economic development is looking at entertainment districts in other parts of town. You know what the great advantage to them is? If we are doing programming in a cultural district, we are doing the audience development for those businesses. We are helping those businesses determine, okay, if we have a jazz series, we know this is who's coming to it and at what volume. And some enterprising entrepreneur somewhere else is going to say, you know what? I can lean into that. So if it's your business to use the arts to make money, we're doing the audience development that would cost you significantly more money to do. It supports Main Street development. Again, part of it butts the Main Street. There's DISD property on there. I talked to people at the Texas Commission for the Arts, and they said it absolutely would enhance your application if you include the school district. You could even create through innovative partnerships that the school, Learning to Read and Maybe Central that are in there, if they could invest in arts education, and there's a way to lean into that. So it benefits everyone. It encourages business growth and retention. I talked to a local developer. I said, when my term for Arts Commission is depleted, I'm not going to reapply. I hope that what we get started is going to make the next commission so much better than this. So I asked him, what can I do that is to look like a success for you? He said, as much arts in Armstrong Park as you guys can do. That's easy. That's what everybody wants. With that, if it's regular businesses, and again, if there's a grant funding cycle, and so we know there's going to be an ebb and flow based on that cycle, local businesses can then do their promotions and their marketing, their business development to coincide with this. We have examples. The community theater at the main station. There's examples of dinner and a show. There's examples of the way that they work together. But it's the regularity. So the business community knows what we're doing. They can prepare for it. They can activate it. They can partner with arts organizations. If you're really, really good at it, some of the underutilized space can then turn into a restaurant. It can turn into a different kind of coffee shop. It can turn into whatever. It can turn into an art space. It supports current cultural development while encouraging new. We're talking about festivals and arts markets, things that are big signature ideas that we want to do for the community, benefits those. It also strengthens current existing cultural facilities, Armstrong Park, and all the amenities in it, Duncanville Community Theater, Duncanville Public Library, Hopkins Center. You notice I don't use the word senior center because whenever I say you go see a concert with the senior center, everybody wants to. So we can lean into how we think about these things. The Lions Club, the Chamber of Commerce and the Visitor Center. It fosters a thriving arts sector, including artists, entrepreneurs, and arts-forward retail. Creates audience interest in other parts of the town. And I mentioned the Camp Wisdom Entertainment District. Presents renewal solutions for underutilized property within the proposed cultural district and adjacent areas. It's a magnet for arts-adjacent industries, i.e. restaurants, gift shops, art supplies, construction, printing, video technology. Every time you see an exhibition, or you see a presentation, or you see a performance, understand all the things we talked about that had to get it there. It activates an incubator and collaboration models. It provides a platform for robust marketing, branding, and visitor attraction campaigns. Remember, Texas Commission for the Arts really wants us to go ahead and use that. We can brand the city around our proposed cultural district, and because we're calling it our cultural district, it's gonna be our cultural district. And the boundaries of the cultural district can ebb and flow until we decide what they're gonna be based on what the community wants and what it can maintain. And it's the onus on the community, not City Hall, to create and lean into arts boards opportunities. And I say that again, it's not a criticism that City Hall's an input. Arts Commission's new, and we haven't figured out how to work with City Hall. It requires no new funding from the city budget. Again, we're asking for part of that money that's in the balance of DCDC that we think the hotels and motels will offer us to use that money for cultural district. It does not change current zoning. It applies accumulated, as we mentioned, the hotel tax collections. And the Cultural District Foundation Arts Commission can advise the comprehensive planning committee. I mentioned that. I think there's a lot of advice, but I don't think benefit us to get caught up in an extended committee process. Whew, that was a lot of words. So I'd like to open up to item 6. The Arts Commission would like to open up for discussion, feedback, thoughts, questions. Ask me hard questions. I know what hard questions are going to come from. You're sitting right there, be very cool.
Okay, you mentioned a number of times on the town park. That's what people want. So, what do they want in on the town park? What's it look like?
So, one of the really cool things about where we are now is we can explore future. We had hoped, and I'll talk a little bit about this. Arts Commission wanted to kind of in our preview leading up to the fiscal year, and announcing the new fiscal year that was going to pepper as much artistic experiences within Armstrong Park. Why do we say Armstrong Park? One is there's community spaces that are available to us. And also the Texas Commission for the Arts looks at what's going to be most attractive in an application. So Park is saying there's a lot of amenities in Armstrong Park, that's Main Street. So think of it in the whole context. So later on we'll talk about the Texas Guitar Society. We're going to talk about some of the proposed activities that we get into it. And so here's the fun part. This is where we get to activate, if we decide to move forward in this, we get to activate the community. We get to prime the pump. If we do certain kinds of performances, certain kinds of exhibitions, we can work with the community engagement board to develop feedback tracking. I know that they were looking for a project to really see their feedback. I imagine that Parks and Rec would like to see some sort of feedback on how the park spaces are being used and how, because I know that they would like to do some things on it. So how the arts use it is one. So to answer your question, we've done some preliminary surveying during our mixers. We ask that people give their opinions on what they'd like for us to do. Occasionally we have people come and they'll speak to us. We get emails. So there's some, I'm going to call anecdotal. But this is where we get to lean in. Let's just start exploring what can resonate. So to ask you, I can speculate. One of the proposals from the Texas Guitar Society is to have busking Beethoven. It looks like we may not be able to get to Hopkins. And so you can imagine when the park is most busy with walkers, have classical musicians walking around playing music. We can do performances in the Hopkins. Obviously, we're good at doing exhibits now. Is there anything that we can do in the gazebo? Is there anything that we can do? Obviously, Hopkins, but I think that's more set up for festivals. This is really a cool, fun time to explore what people want. So we've gotten community input. Like one of the reasons Texas Guitar Society here is because Tricia even sent an email to all the city council, and then they got back to me, and she said, I want to see the Texas Guitar Society in Duncanville. I'm trying to get the Texas Guitar Society in Duncanville. So we are that responsive. If people come and say, wouldn't it be great if? Arts Commission definitely leans into, so I think it's important that the community recognize, find your favorite arts commissioner and tell them what you want. I don't know if that accurately answers your question, but we have some beginning places to start, we know what resources we have available that could do a good arts program. and we also know that we have a community that's just changing every day. So I suspect, based on my experience and based on conversations we had in the Arts Commission, sometimes it's hitting the lowest hanging fruit. What's the least expensive, what's the thing the most, they can bring families out, and then specialize and build out. Sir?
First of all, excellent presentation.
Thanks.
That was great.
We're not done yet.
That was information overload, which is fantastic. I appreciate that. I just, some comments. My brother is an art teacher. He's been one for 20 years, over 20 years. Elementary art school. And public schools are always fighting for that money to keep our programs alive. And I see him go through it year after year. And he routinely wins national awards with the students, state awards with the students. And I don't think I didn't get it at first, but after speaking with them, the arts is so much. It's all the core stuff. It's the science, it's the math, it's the English, it's the history. And the impact he's had on the kids. And that's what really gets me to establishing things that want to feed our children and feed our community. It fits within the comprehensive master plan. It even mentions it in there, the need that we wanted 7 to 8 years ago.
Right. We did, for the record, we did use Destination Duncanville as source material because of this. To your point, one of the advantages of having part of DIST full properties in here is we have an opportunity to lean into those skills that we need to. How can we improve your arts education? That is absolutely in the purview of the cultural district. It's also in the purview of private donors that, just like you, they're gonna lean into that. And again, this is a function of what does the community want? It's fantastic being the first arts commission because we get to cast the widest net.
Our first festival, October 6th, is Urban American Day.
Did you write that down, Alex?
Certainly got a question. Observation.
This is a couple of questions. So, looking at the Texas Commission on the Arts, their website, so they have some criteria that they list for success factors,
Right.
for cultural districts. And so a couple of them, so for example, the first one says a unique and authentic identity that highlights what is special about the district and the community is in place. So how do we go about, I know we're talking about signature events, sorry, I use the E word. But signature events, programming for years, and like what is it that makes Duncanville, and highlighting that? And so, so for this cultural district, how would we go about determining what's going to be the identity of that district, right? What themes, and what is it going to highlight about the community?
I understand, so I have some ideas, but I want to give my fellow arts commissioners an opportunity to chime in on Mr. Coons' question. And so if you didn't hear, he asked, how do we determine what our unique identity is within a cultural district? Would anybody like to respond to Mr. Coons?
I think we already have a unique identity here in Duncanville. I mean, we're called the City of Champions, and we just hone in on that and continue building from there. We're the City of Champions. We can do all sorts of things around that set. That's what we're going for.
Something that you said in your presentation is really the community that's going to come out and get involved and determine and define what the identity is. And each group of people that get involved kind of add that flavor to it and that culture. That's why it's a cultural district. We all bring our separate cultures and create a culture together for our city.
I think that what's unique about Duncanville is its diversity. And a lot of people successful artists have been raised in Duncanville and gone off nationally, internationally, become famous. We have, because of our diversity, each diverse sector has its own cultural heritage that they can bring to the mix of, if we had a space, a center of some kind, imagine all the Hispanic heritage and we've already had artists that have come and brought their art that reflect that culture. African American culture, the Juneteenth project was a lot about that. We had an amazing collection from the Harveys of traditional artifacts from Africa. That brings a unique cultural aspect to it. We have some really very successful artists living in our borders within the city limits that they show in various places around Dallas. They have works in galleries. And if we could attract galleries to bring to establish their businesses, then we can start to bring that into the community and offer entrepreneurial spaces. So I think that's our diversity is huge.
I think having a dedicated space where we develop multifaceted programs would build an audience. And we have the theater, which is going great for how many years. But I think a multi-purpose arts center, and if you look at the development of both the downtown Dallas Arts District and at Bishop Arts, you see evolution over many years, and you see development like Clybourne Park occurred after the DMA was there for a number of probably decades. So I think we can't totally envision what all would be achieved, but that we would make a beginning, and we have the capacity now and the talent we can draw upon to build this.
I definitely feel like the arts is a catalyst for change, right? Change happens with or without our permission. And so I think that it's super important to look at it and figure out how we can push the dial, like how we can move forward in making certain that everyone feels as though they have visibility in our community. I think that we are top tier in sports. I love the sports. I love all different type of things that Duncanville has to offer. But I think that everyone wants to feel comfortable in their skin in Duncanville. And I think the arts is always something that sharpens our ability to feel solved. Whether that be through utilizing that through education, whether that be educating our community, whether we use it as a tool for those people in our community, whether it be through autism and special needs, right? I think it's super important. I think it's important for us to look at it in totality and say our job is to plant the seeds. What's going to blossom is based on the way that we care for that plant, right? And I think the same thing happens in communities. I think what a time to be alive and be in the City of Champions. I think that working together and making certain that we give our artists, our entrepreneurs, our forward thinkers, our thought thinkers, being able to say, we're gonna provide you a platform to have a soundboard and to be solved. I think that would be our job. I can't say what is our specific identity, but I do think that we should all feel identifiable in the space that we live in.
Do the gentleman in the audience speak?
Are we allowed? I'm happy to.
Yes, Bill.
Sir, absolutely.
Woo! Woo!
That's a lot of work.
That was a mic drop, and I thank you for giving me the floor. The word Archibald Motley, Black Renaissance painter. He did a lot of works where he showed the full essence of people, whether in nightlife or daytime, how people just mix and mingle, and that is something set in history. Now, when I think about complex solutions, I think about us making it simple. I think of like all of us in here are 25 and plus, and we can be all considered children of God, right? And if we was in elementary or daycare, we have show and tell, and show and tell gives us a quick way to comprehend how we all are in connection or how we all have some type of commonality via through our eyeballs and just something that we like, and for us all to see. So, in what she just spoke about, what's your name?
Tiffany.
Miss Tiffany. She spoke about seeds. I just had an exhibition that's called A Special Type of Seed, Oil and Light, which is based off of the vision that I had to deliver to the city of Dallas via through topics of redemption, God, creation, family, love, all the things that we all kind of go through in ebbs and flows. And I started thinking about actually you all in here. I think about how we have white folk, we have Mexican folk, we have black folk, which are really African American, Native Americans, and then we have other folks in here that may be foreigners.
Have old folks.
All folks.
Old folks.
Old folks. That could be a genre. All to say, I was like, well, in order to get things going, I guess the most littlest amount of work that people can do is be that foundation where people can, the sounding board or have it where people can at least have the allowance or permission to cast out seeds, such as like, we got young generations of children and they may not necessarily have no type of inspiration from nothing in Duncanville. Be straight up with you. Probably in the schools a little bit, but then halfway the teachers don't really want to be there all the way because they're a bit tired and some things are just redundant. However, I recognize for me, what stood out for me growing up as an elementary student, because I still have a vibrant memory, is teachers that showed love in the ways that it was like, I don't know, it seemed like they was family, but also when I would step outside of Duncanville, what sparked my attention was things I saw with my sight. And so visuals that are very colorful, that embrace people, that embrace the nature, whether you got hummingbirds, you got flowers, you got people smiling, you got people making their homemade dishes, whether you be African, whether you be African American, whether you be Mexican, white, people just having those visuals. I saw those type of visuals whether I went to Austin or whether I went to Miami, and I was like, yo, this right here gives me goosebumps. I don't know how I got it, how I can do this, because I knew I can draw. I was like, I just need to know I need to be in a position where I can do this and cast out some type of seed that says you don't have to be bland as you get older. And I think that I ain't gonna lie, some of us in here, we can choose what we can. Some of us in here are bland. Just being straightforward. Some of us in here are bland. And we have great lengthy ideas. And these great lengthy ideas are great. However, if no one is actually doing it or doing the thing that needs to be done, we're just going to have constantly nice, lengthy conversations to try to convince whoever who has the money to lend the money over to whoever who can actually put use to it.
Sir, I want to add something to what you're saying.
Thank you.
I'm guilty of being blamed. But that segues nicely into something I wanted to ask. I think it's important because we need to know, we're policymakers, we're regulators, we're government people. That's what we do, okay? And we can escape from that. We can understand what you're saying and what comments were made tonight that I won't specifically respond to, but there's some accuracy in some of the things I've heard. And you and I have had a discussion about this. So, we're almost from two different worlds, but we have people that believe in art, whether it's music, whether it's how we dress, whatever it is. I think you're going to find something from all of us that can relate to this vision. But we're still regulators, we're still policymakers, we're still that. It doesn't mean that we are going to get in the way but the comments that have been made seem to suggest that we have to have a different type of approach. We have to have a different type of approach to fully understand and give you some of the freedoms you need to be able to be successful. So how do you see that relationship with us elected officials and the city manager? How are we gonna work this out so that we don't stand in your way?
I think first, speaking of the Arts Commission, one of the things that we recommended is a dedicated system. Whether that's done through policy or whether that's done through contract, but we need to have a dedicated source of transparent funding that we can distribute to the community, the arts community, in a way that's equitable and sustainable. And, you know, we talked about a little bit of public money attracts a lot of private money. Secondly, artists need places to set up shop. Our recommendation, the boundary for the cultural district includes a lot of amenities. It's very robust, it's very comprehensive. It potentially has a mood for everyone. That comprehensive approach is going to create more opportunities for artists and entrepreneurs. Some of the best outcomes that we can have is when we provide the pathways for them to move forward that the private people will set up and support them. So allowing a cultural district to manifest organically by the needs of the community, specifically the artist community, within the parameters that's going to make the best application to Texas Commission for the Arts. I understand right now if we applied, we would probably not get a favorable result. But what we have to do to be most eligible are things that would benefit the community. So some of the notations, it could take a year and a half, 2 years to get the funding or to get the designation. That would be 2 amazing years telling all our stakeholders, we're going to create something special in Duncanville, and artists are going to lead the way. Last is we need to support our private funders. The 501c3 foundation. The way that would be organized typically is the community makes up the membership elects the board, and the board elects the officers. The membership and the board can determine how big that organization is. So theoretically, if we say, the way that we can support this 501c3 is one, priority consideration for contract. There's an opportunity for the 501c3 contract with the city to relieve a burden for city staff to disseminate the funds in a way that city staff does not burden. But also free use of city space. So if the nonprofit wanted to have a fundraiser event, they could use city space at no cost within the proposed cultural district. I think it's important that we, in this process, we analyze any kind of overlapping activity. We know that there's a lot of arts activity outside of Arts Commission. That's fine. Nobody would ever say we don't want that. But when it's outside the purview of the Arts Commission, it eliminates the opportunity for us to be strategic. It eliminates the opportunities for us to create metrics behind it. And again, grant making is not just giving money to something, it's problem solving. But in this case, this proposal recommends bringing the community together and then allowing the artist community in all its fashion determine that unique identity that Mr. Coons relayed to, and then other peoples in the community have.
Tell me, how do we go about treating it if the council was to decide later on, because we're not voting on taking any action tonight, but how do we go about treating it as a cultural district? What are the best practices we need to implement in order to do that?
Dedicated funding. Dedicated funding specifically for the purpose of supporting the cultural district. And with that, we're going to have to invest in some branding we're gonna have to invest in some, identity creation. And I think probably the best result that we would get is if we don't tell the artist community, we're telling you how we are original, how do the way that we're telling you. Is that I understand there's gonna have to be guardrails. But within a cultural district, allow the artist a place to feel like, okay, the city has my back. I talked to one artist today on the phone, and he said, I said, what would be a success for you? He said he could apply for funding, get the funding, produce the work, show the work, and not have anybody vote. I talked with another artist who wanted funding to create the work, present the work, but then on top of that, they need a business training. They need marketing training. So I think we have to allow this process to be organic. You hear Bishop Arts, you hear develop. Well, that's generations of change and growth. And very little of it was developer first. I think there's enough that exists that if we lean into the arts and cultural community, that they can find the best use of things and ways they can
I also want to add to that. I also think that when we look at art, we also don't want to put it in a box, because a lot of times we think art, a picture on the wall, right? But I think we gotta remember we have culinary arts, we have visual arts, we have theater, and how important it is to really tap into our ability to allow our youth to start creating that they can explore, that we can feed them things, right? Because when I think about art and think about a cultural district and just like even the premise of where we're trying to have it, like I think about, live shows, I think about festivals, I think about supporting those children's after-school programs in our area and being able to say, we already know that they have after-school program, or we already know they have summer camps, why not go ahead and provide them monthly funding for the arts programs, so they do have the art supplies. That in turn would support a business, what is it, Seasons? I love that store, by the way. They have supported my child through that, he's in college now, but let me tell you something, that's giving them support, it's giving our artists support, you can have all these things and visions in your mind until you put them on paper, or until you have that funding to do it. A lot of people may want to go to college, but the funding is a lot of times the barrier. And I think in this situation, we're saying that we do all this for free, because why? We love it. We want our children to be able to be inspired, because if we're not inspired, we have no dreams, right? And what we're doing is we're asking, first of all, Ron, he didn't have any problem asking for money. He just wouldn't ready for $1 million. I said, go for it, right? And so I'm asking for money too. But I think the thing about it is this is just a starting point for all of us. I think our administration has done a great job at welcoming the Arts Commission the last couple of years. It's been actually a little over 18 months and this month. And I feel like I saw everyone's faces. I mean, that's so awesome, because you guys are running a whole municipality, you're running a whole city, and you still make time for someone as mature as far as we're only a year old, right? And we're still finding our own footing. But I think working, us utilizing the community and making certain that we're pouring back into it, right? It's so important. Like Councilman Baker said, the education part with kids, it's everything. I come from a whole family of educators. I have a best friend, I donate to them every year because they buy their supplies for their kids that don't have them. And I understand like the need. A lot of times people are, especially with inflation, they're trying to decide, how am I gonna pay my, childcare as well as put gas in my car? And now you're saying I need $85 and 6 boxes of tissues for art supplies at school, right? And I don't ever want to stifle someone's dream. I think that we as a team, especially like Amy, not to point you out, but Amy, what she does is every day she shows up for a whole voice of someone else, and it could be the next Matthew McConaughey, You know, if we got two of him, right? So, but these are the things that we're doing. We're inspiring. We're giving the people a platform to become. And that is what we are here to do. We are a branch of the city, right? And we are here to empower you to be your best community so that you can focus on the things that we need to do. And we can just focus on the things we need to.
I love
So,
it.
that's all.
Thank you. Marianne?
Sort of to go with that, for decades, Duncanville High School has been exemplary in UIL in all the arts. There are, of course, academics as well, but music is important to the Duncanville High School. So are the arts, so is drama. There have always been people who are students who are at the state level every single year. And of course, that's its own reward to win, but I would like to hear their voices too, and Village Tech as well. I know they can't be on a commission because of their age. I could think they might be able to be on a board of some sort. But I think their voices are really important, and you know, of course, it's trite to say they're our future, but it's true. So I'd like to hear what they would have to say about what we could do, how we could help, and help not just with competition, but in a forward-looking way to connect.
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Well, do you wanna ask your question or make a comment?
Well, it's just a comment. Concerning having funds, line item funding for the commission, I could see within that funding, getting the funds to have a dedicated place. And within the walls of a dedicated place that's set for, the arts, I think that would go a long ways to help our chances for recognition for a cultural district. But also, it's like you were saying, giving artists a place to show their work once they've created their work, giving a dance troupe a place to have a recital, giving a maker space, a place, even at first, if a space isn't all completely renovated, but it becomes a pop-up space within its walls. Artists think differently. They think very differently than administrators and bean counters. Sorry, Mr. Hart. We think differently.
Retired bean counter.
Retired. My apologies. And when you pull arts and artists into the conversation for a community, amazing things happen. So if a dedicated space would attract people, it would, it really would, it'd make a difference.
Mr. Cooch. You have a question? Comment?
Yeah, just as far as how to make this work. So, a couple of examples of cities that have cultural districts. I actually went and looked up some of those cities already, and I started with San Antonio because we're from San Antonio, and so of course they've got a cultural district as well. Each one of those cities has a strategic plan for their cultural district. So I want to make this recommendation. It's kind of something to do in the meantime. Is for y'all to be working on developing a strategic plan. And again, that's another one of the success factors that's mentioned. Cultural strategic planning has been completed. It articulates a vision for the cultural district and the broader community. Because for us, as policymakers and as bean counters, and some of us are artists, by the way, so I wouldn't underestimate those hidden qualities. But for us, yes, we deal with policy. We're dealing with public spaces that belong to the community. We're dealing with public funding, taxpayer money. And so we do have a certain level of fiscal responsibility that we have to exercise. So, as an artist, well, I'd like to say, hey, if you can think of it, let's do it, right? But again, as a policymaker and someone who do have some responsibility to have a strategic plan, y'all present it to us, It's backed by community input, and we all done due diligence on it. We say, okay, the strategic plan, here's our vision, now we just need the money to execute this vision. And here's a clear vision of where we want to go, right? I think that would help us, make it easier for us to make decisions quickly.
To Mr. Coombs's word, we've had a lot of comments from folks who respond that the city needs to have a cultural plan. And strategic plan, cultural plan is how we address those.
And, I'm sorry, again, I know city managers mentioned documents that sit on shelves, I hate that you have a document that sits on a shelf. But again, for us, it would help for us to have a document and whereby we can make decisions.
Every good vision comes with a strategic plan, and I also think that a strategic plan also comes with a little bit of a budget. We don't have any budget, so I just want to remind, like, sometimes I think that evaluating your stakeholders and making sure we're getting that community input because it's something for the community. I think that's super important too. But I definitely feel like you're right on target.
Yeah, I wanted to say this, probably as being the keeper of the arts knowledge in Duncanville for 36, almost going on 37 years now. I've seen a lot of organizations come and go. And I think what Councilman Kuntz was saying, the strategic plan having in place, there was a Duncanville Regional Arts Association. I actually just Googled it a minute ago and nothing unique came up, but it was when I first started teaching in Duncanville in 1983, they had great arts organizations. What they didn't have was a ton of money, and they didn't have, there wasn't an arts commission to help support them. There wasn't that mechanism. And then later, Steve Madison and I were on an organization. We were the Duncanville Arts Commission, and it was an arm of the Duncanville Chamber. We had Arts Explorer at Main Station 3 years. Yeah. It was amazing. He had booths, and he had an architectural thing where we had Box City, and the kids could come around and build houses and buildings. And then we had several local artists who had, they had kids in their booths painting. We had a potter who was actually there with the potter's wheel throwing pots and teaching kids how to do it. And then at the theater, we had a big backdrop along the side of the building. We called it community paint. And all the kids and the adults were painting with big long paintbrushes all over the place, getting paint on their face and their feet. But it brought everybody together. It was free, it was open.
It was
But
about
the
100
problem
degrees
was,
that day, too.
pardon?
It was about 100 degrees.
It was about 100 degrees that day.
But the people came out.
But we're back again to, there wasn't any mechanism. Volunteers get tired. I can tell you that from having run a nonprofit community theater for 36 years. We're fortunate that we have a few core people who just decided to do it for free for 36 years. That doesn't happen very often, and we are lucky that we get funding from the city and that we get, from the hot funds, and that we have a base of donors, but that started slowly. So I want to say this, it's important that we recognize that we're building on this and that Rome wasn't built in a day, but that we've got to have that strategic plan. We have to come up with this is what we want to do, and this is where we're going to start, and this is where we want to go. And I think sometimes we sit and we talk, and to quote Shakespeare, sometimes it almost seems like it's much ado about nothing, but it's not really. We're all talking, we all have these amazing ideas, but we've got to concretely sit down and systematically say we all talk in the corporate world about the 5-year plan. Yes, I've worked both hats, the corporate world and the arts world, but you have to have that plan. What do we want to do year one? Yes, we want a building, but we're not going to get a building in year one. But that's what we want down the road. That's where we want to go. And if we don't put that on paper and we don't say this is what we want to do, so we're back again to the strategic plan, and then we I think that's up to us to help develop that with the city leaders. And I'm grateful for the Arts Commission and the fact that we have this endorsement of the arts in Duncanville. And we're evolving. We're just kind of making it happen. We don't really know, and we've got to sit down together and write this. But I feel strongly that we've got to develop a strategic plan, and this is where we want to go, and step that accordingly, so that we can get to all the things. And I do believe, I'm going to say this, I think the establishment, the efforts to try to, I understand we have to apply to the state, the efforts to get a cultural arts district would certainly be a step in the right direction. Within that mechanism, you can develop all sorts of things, specific noise ordinances, crowd gathering ordinances, and things like that that are specific to the cultural district, so that we don't so we don't have events competing against one another, but instead enhancing one another. I said when I interviewed the Arts Commission that I believe that art begets art, art breeds art. And so you have to start somewhere, but if we had a district, doesn't mean there's not gonna be art outside of that district, goodness, I hope there is. But it means that we have that framework of where, for right here, we're gonna make this a cool spot, you know, that people wanna come. People who don't even know they like art, they don't have to think they're coming to the arts district, they're just going down there to listen to the music. And sooner or later, then they find out they kinda like art, but they don't know that going into it. It's a passive thing. And so I feel that that's one of the things that we've gotta do. So I wanted to weigh in on that on the strategic plan, and that I do believe, it would certainly benefit the theater to have that be a cultural district and have that growth there.
Okay, so let me jump in real quick. I agree with the strategic plan. Councilmember Coons passed out one for Southlake, and then there's also one for the Dallas Cultural Plan that was put out in 2018. So if you can get your hands on this too, this would be another example that you could use. I want to confirm what I heard as far as what we can do as far as best practices now. Dedicated source transparency funding, allowing cultural district, support private funders, analyze overlapping opportunities and use that for your metrics and how you can gauge and funding that you need for in the future. And then I would like just to say for Duncanville, what was mentioned in your presentation was that they have cultural districts everywhere other than southwest of Dallas, correct? So we've always talked about how can we define Duncanville? What is it that makes us unique? We don't want to become our sister cities. We want to find a way that we find our own identification. I think that this is an opportunity to do just that. Being that there's a waiting list of 40 plus just to get into the Salmon Center, just for 40 plus for that one center. Imagine if we could be that incubator here. So I appreciate, I buy into your, and I support the presentation for tonight. So thank you for the information you provided. You gave us a lot, for me, gave me a lot to think about. But I just want to again reiterate, we have an opportunity here to finally define who is Duncanville, set that vision, if council agrees.
I'll also mention that, along with Mr. Coon's idea, I think it's always important that when you're approaching us, that you're approaching us, even though this is an arts world, but the strategic plan is actually a form of a business plan that you're bringing us. And that's what we understand. It's not that we can't divorce ourselves from being always governmental thinkers. We understand what you're bringing, but at some point we have to view it as a business plan, a strategic plan, so that we can start to figure out what our part is in that and how we can help, how we best facilitate the needs, because you've identified your plan. Now, how can we help tackle it? Because you wouldn't be coming to us if you didn't need our help. So we need to be prepared, see your strategic plan, and what kind of time estimate are we looking at before we would see something like that? Because we don't want to be the ones that are being looked at, because we've been through this before. As we're the stallers, okay? And we don't want to be that. But until you bring back that plan, we can keep on working on smaller ideas. We can entertain smaller ideas as we go along, but that one strategic plan is what's going to put us in the driver's seat to make the next decision, so that it can keep moving. Without that, it does kind of come to a stop until we have that, so we can absorb what you're bringing us.
Absolutely.
I could just piggyback on what the mayor was saying. So I think one of the challenges the Arts Commission is having, right, is you're dealing really with 4 different groups. You're dealing, and especially, I mean, just Ron, great job with the presentation, there's a ton of different information, but you're dealing with the Arts Commission, you're dealing with City Council, you talked about the DCEDC, and you mentioned HOT, that brings in the HOT funds, that brings in our hotels, and that brings in the Hotel Lobby Association of the state of Texas, okay? So there's 4 different groups. Now, what I would tell you is from everything I hear, there's alignment, there's a lot of alignment between the 4 different groups, but it's exactly figuring out the logistics on how to make this happen, right? What I would tell you is, you talk about the cultural district, it's awesome, I hear a lot of support for that. That's gonna involve local laws, that's gonna involve a series of things the council's gonna have to do regarding policy. What I would share with you is we had a DCEDC meeting last night, and I've talked to every single one of the DCEDC board members individually. They 100% support the Arts Commission. They understand arts is so critical to economic development in the city of Duncanville, and they're willing to invest. So much so, what I would tell you is they have some ideas too for facility for you. That may actually be the low-hanging fruit, because they're willing to help with that, right? So we need to have some of those logistical conversations as well. And then we have to bring in, lastly, we have to bring in the hotels, the motel. We have to bring in the Hotel Lobby Association. I've actually spent a lot of time this week speaking with the Hotel Lobby Association, and invited them to come to Duncanville so we can hear directly from the horse's mouth. Mr. Harvey mentioned the actual number. I'm just gonna round off. We collect about $1 million a year in hotel occupancy tax. How cool is that? That the whole purpose of that is to promote Duncanville 100% in different ways. Whether it's sports, whether it's arts, whether it's tourism, you name it, there's different ways. Now, there's all kinds of strings that come with it. We gotta follow the state rules, but there's ways to be creative and do that. I think that's an incredible thing. We get to spend $1 million a year promoting Duncanville in those different ways with those hot funds. And so it's all of these different things, and we've got to look for those ways that those 4 groups can come together and really support the arts. But what I think, as you've heard here from the city council, I can promise you the DCEDC is on board also. The hotels are on board, so much so that the hotels are asking us, hey, is there a way to increase what we pay in occupancy tax so that we can invest even more money in tourism promotion and bringing people to Duncanville? So it's an awesome story, right? We just have to work together through the logistics. Strategic plan is gonna help a lot with that, but it's gonna take a little bit of time to work through all the details.
You know, Alex, to address some of the things that council's talking about, when Arts Commission meets their next regular meeting, we may discuss some collaborative strategic with other boards and commissions, DCEC, that, so to come back, mentioning the alignment and the overlapping, perhaps there's opportunities to do that together.
And I do want to add, because I am very supportive of this, something, I always tell you, arts has always been different from business, anything else that makes a difference. Mr. Finch hit on something that I think is very important, and that is, the reason why you have a DCEDC is because regular government is clunky and they can move. And that is kind of the key or the direction of where to go with this. We can be creative, we can write some policies, and so that, when we might be the little slower part, but we do have the ability to do it. And it is, once, it goes back to what Jeremy says, is get the strategic plan, we can be looking at this thing and get it situated. But I want to thank you again, Ron, for your presentation, because it's obvious a lot of work's gone into this, and for the commission members as well, because y'all have done good things, and I appreciate it.
I just wanted to say that when the city does something for the community, like they did with Kidsville, just recently, the upgrade, the community notices. You know, a lot of love comes back to the city because because they see that the city is doing something. Now, in the art world, when the traffic boxes were decorated, you know, a little thing, but the people noticed. And they said, wow, that's kind of cool, you know, the love comes back. The wall at Cockrell Hill and Danieldale, still, you know, the neighborhood noticed. And so the more we can do that the people can see and experience, you'll get a lot more love. That's it.
So I'm gonna ask the Arts Commission, unless City Council has more questions, I'd like to move on, so that way we don't keep things rolling.
I have one more question. You suggested the Arts Commission having their own 501c3.
It wouldn't be ours.
Well, not the Arts Commission, the
The community.
cultural district, the
Correct.
community, yes, having its own 501c3. Tell me the benefits of the cultural district having its own 501c3 versus operating under the purview of the DCUC's 501c3.
So it's important, it's not either one. I would not eliminate any source of opportunity at all. And what Mr. Finch just said regarding DCUC is fantastic because he gets it. And what I'm hearing from City Council and the community and the Arts Commission is that, okay, we're on to something. The purpose of the 501c3, again, is not to replace anything. It is, there are restrictions on who can be on the 4P board, and it's limited by size and their profession. That's fine, because there are resources and opportunities for that. What the 501c3 does is it brings a community together. It's pretty standard practice, if you notice, for the cultural districts to have an extra funding arm. Obviously, the city of Dallas has an office of cultural affairs, cultural arts. So, it's not to replace or to put one in front of the other, it's to bring the community together, and that's the advantage for having that.
Recently, I went to the Oak Cliff Cultural Center. It's affiliated with the Latino Cultural Center, the Bath House Cultural Center in Dallas, the Moody Theater. And I asked, well, how do you fund it in part? And he says, we have organizations, 501c3s, like the Friends of the Oak Cliff Cultural Center, that help us to keep this one cultural center going. So to me, that sort of is what I think we're talking about as well.
I'm talking about the Duncanville Nature Services. They have the 501c3. They are there to help fund one. Okay. Got it.
Okay, so unless City Council has any more questions, we have 2 more points. Yes, sir?
I just have something quick. Creative Waco is a good example of a 501c3 that supports the arts. Fiona, if you were listening, is, I know through arts contacts, and I recently had a conversation with the Waco City Attorney, and I said, so how do you deal with hot funds? And she said, oh, we just give it to Creative Waco and make them handle it. And they have a lot of events, the Waco Civic Theater applies, that kind of thing. I was reading, Creative Waco's mission is Creative Waco exists to grow and support a thriving cultural and creative community in Waco and McLean County, Texas, and they are a 501c3. They do liaison closely with the Waco City Council, I know that, because I recently had a project where the city council didn't like the color of the lanterns hanging underneath the I-35 bridge, and that got changed fairly quickly. So it's not that they're autonomous, but there is some sort of liaison there, but that is the way that they administrate that, and it might be interesting to explore that a little far more, and maybe have to take Ian a lunch or something, I don't know. Anyway,
We've had the DeSoto equivalent events for after 25 years in the commission. I think, like everything else, what's best for the community. So unless City Council has more on this point, we have 2 more points.
Are we on agenda item 6 right now?
6, correct.
Okay, there's 2 parts to that. The first part is to discuss, to have some feedback, recommendations about the cultural district. And then it says, and other responsibilities as described in the Arts Commission's charter. So does that kind of open it up to a broader discussion? Because I do, because we're gonna talk about the hot fund. There's another discussion, or I guess some comments I'd like to make that it's not necessarily related directly to the cultural district.
I would like you to please comment, because the agenda item I'm looking at is abbreviated from yours. So, if there's a point on 6, please.
Okay, so I handed this out to everybody, and it's from the city of South Lake, and this is just one example of how this could be done. but essentially they have, it's a special revenue fund. And this is for public art, and it emphasizes visual art, right? So that's there's really just about visual art. Of course, we can broaden ours to include all forms of art, but basically they create a special revenue fund that's funded by an annual, every year through their financial policy. And so we talk about policy, right? So via their financial policy, every year they transfer automatically, every year, every budget, automatically transfer up to 15% of the hot fund revenue into that special fund. So they create it. And I think we've been kind of talking around this idea. But it's basically just a special revenue fund. And that money is, it's coming out of the city and it's going into the city, right? But it's going into a special fund for that special designated use. And so again, this is just kind of one example of how this could be done. And as far as budget is concerned, we've already started budget conversations. And so this is something that we can begin to discuss right away if we want to do something like this, starting the next fiscal year, right? So for next year. So again, that's just one way this is done. And I think they started that in 2000. Well, I know their public art, that started back in 2007. So they're kind of, a lot of cities are way ahead, but as far as funding it, annual, starting this fund, I think that started in 2017 or 18. So just one example of how we can do this.
Would that help support the mechanism that's mentioned as in the ordinance 4? So when it says duties and powers, the commission shall solicit applications for arts events, review and hear requests for funding, schedule interview, adopt guidelines for criteria for applicants requesting funding. The commission will advise the city council on the expenditure of the hotel motel tax allocation for the office. Allocating funding or identifying the funding line, would that be what they need to be able to sufficiently do? Because that's one thing they haven't been able to do since they've been created.
Put that on policy. Yes, but it has to go into a policy.
Right.
But this way, it's not something we have to consider every year. It's just automatic. Every year, the amount was put out there. I forgot what it was. So every year, automatically, 15% of that hot fund. Yeah, pretty much. And y'all, and the commission knows it's there. And after this council's gone, and y'all are off the commission, the next council, the next commission, they always know it's there every year.
And the sustainability. Thank you for sharing this with us.
Were there any other questions on that point in item 6 that we can, I just don't want to dwell. Is there anything else that we can answer?
Don't be so done.
Well, Ron, this is for council and the city manager, so we could look into possibly considering a policy like this.
We can, what it's gonna require is just logistics. We have to amend the administrative agreement with the DCDC, and then it still has to meet, and that's why I've invited the gentleman from the hotel, president, the lead attorney for the Hotel Lobby Association, because it still has to meet specific requirements, which is broad for arts. It's 15%. Encouragement, promotion, improvement, and application of arts, including instrumental, vocal music, dance, drama, folk art, creative writing, architecture, design, allied fields, painting, sculpture, photography, graphic, craft arts, motion pictures, radio, television, tape, sound recording, and other arts related to presentation, performance, execution, exhibition of major art forms. So it's very broad in what it includes, but cumulative, we can't spend more than 15% of our budget on arts. So that means we would have to, if we're gonna send the entire 15% to the Arts Commission, that means we're not able to use hot funds for any of our other like music performances and those types of things.
Well, it's an arts dedicated fund from which the commission can pull funds.
But they would be doing it, not the city. we wouldn't be able to use hot funds for, if we're gonna do, bring in the band for a multi-day event, because that's the other thing, is it has to be a multi-day event, it says specifically, the expenditure has to directly promote tourism and hotel and convention industry, if you're talking about hot funds. Now, if we're talking about EDC funds, that's different. We've got a lot more flexibility in terms of that. So it's the cumulative piece for the 15%. That's why I said it's probably gonna be best if we get the gentleman here to really explain to us. But that's where South Lake's 15% is coming from, is that.
And again, this is an example, and I know we, you know, like we've said, you know, things that we talk about, you know, go around in circles. Here's an end goal, right? We want to get there. So, okay, we got to figure it out, but it can be figured out. So, I hope before we adopt our budget for 2025, that we can figure this out, how it can work for the city of Duncanville.
Well, and to everyone's point, which is very satisfying for me to hear, we're talking about just sustainability. So when everyone else in this room is different, the policies that you guys have established will maintain. I think that's important.
Excuse me, just to add, a more so a hired role. So you're talking about the 15%, and I think about everything like a village, but it gets very complex. But I would say consider hire someone with a role, maybe $40,000 a year for them to be a designated folklorist, plus data analyst, and also just literally physical muscle. So very similar to how the U.S. government or Air Force has, you can come on as an officer. If you had an officer type of person that can work within the city confines of the policy and regulations, and they can be like a data analyst within their mindset, also basically a folklorist, someone who's literally on the streets talking to the different peoples, who has a strong cultural competence to be personable, but at the same time they have the wits to be a journalist, and also they can report that information back to you all's hub, and also build out a comprehensive layout that has like data analytic type of information that everyone can then comprehend and understand. Then if you don't want to put so much money, or you don't know where to start, that 15% which the gentleman spoke about, that can be dedicated towards literally creating a role for a person, preferably a black person, who already has walk on eggshells and their intelligence, and also within their physicality within a city of mixed races, and who actually they can have a requirement of going to college, having studied urban economic development, social entrepreneurship, they've studied anthropology, to literally have them accredited as someone who is strongly fit to ascertain the information and actually provide it to mayor for you to receive. And all the points that y'all have referenced can all come together in this coagulated, try to use another big word, amalgamation of documents for there to be we can actually do this. But I would say we need to start with that one person. And just like I would think in the corporate space, data analysts oftentimes have engineered groups where they work together, but they may have someone lead who actually is like, all right, we're dealing with 4 different parts. Can you do this part? Can you do this part? Can you do this part? And we all come together, put it together in a Word document, and then submit it.
Okay, so we appreciate your comments, we really do, but we have 3 more items that we have to get on with.
Yes, sir.
So
I ain't gonna say no more.
You can talk to people after the meeting.
Fourth Tuesday of the month, Arts Commission, fourth Tuesday of the month.
Indeed.
Thank you. Any more questions on comments on point 6? Yes. 2 really critical things that I think that we need your eyes on. Item 7, recommended fiscal year 2024 funding for a break between the city and the Arts Society Arts Work program. So when, I don't know, 2 things. 1, 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 2 things. 1 This is an issue of growth. This is an issue of manhood. The last meeting we're gonna have, this was gonna be my explanation of projects in motion. Part of this is when Arts Commission was first convened, we were briefed that we had $50,000 available towards arts program. And then we had hoped there was gonna be additional applications. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. So the challenge is some of these programs that we had planned could be potentially jeopardized. And so our approach to resolve this is recognizing that staff is at complete bandwidth. Arts Commission has bandwidth. We're leaning back on that $50,000, which is why the proposal is there for $49,500. What the Texas Guitar Society is, and what we hope they can do is for the rest of this fiscal year, and I'm gonna give you a little calendar in a minute, but the rest of this fiscal year, leading into the next, to be completed in the next, is turnkey arts programming. So we contract with the Texas Guitar Society to $49,500 for turnkey arts programming development, deployment, and management through the end of the current 2023-2024 fiscal year to be completed in the next 24-25 fiscal year. So what this is we have additional arts programming that we want to have completed for the rest of this fiscal year in the beginning, but we don't have any way to activate. So we're looking for turnkey solutions through the Texas Guitar Society. Now you will look in there, some of those items are outdated now because we've had this for a while. And some of it just aren't germane, but it provides the scope. So based on this scope recommendation, the Arts Commission is able to lead into item 8, which is presentation for Arts and Humanities Month in October. So I'm gonna before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the Texas Guitar Society. You can read. Their mission is to bring together, it's not just guitars, but basically they would do all the management of the project. They would find all the artists, pay all the artists, and do all the things that we would need staff to do. And they have experience doing it. They work for other municipalities, they work for the Consulate of Mexico, they work for SMU, the City of Keller. We found them because the resident saw them in Cedar Hill. So they have a lot of experience doing this kind of thing. Again, what we're looking for is someone to absolutely manage it, and look to Arts Commission for refining the concepts that are no longer germane, and to do resource management, communications, and outreach. So that leads us right into item 8, which is a presentation of Arts and Humanities Month in October with recommendations that Duncanville recognizes annual celebration for an annual proclamation. So October is National Arts and Humanities Month. And so that is, it's the National Arts and Humanities Month was established in 1983. It's meant to create awareness about the arts and humanities and how it affects all of our lives. It's used across local municipalities all the way up to every year the president recognizes National Arts and Humanities Month. What we're hoping is that's October, that's also the beginning of our fiscal year. So the idea was, before we knew that we had a dearth of funding, that we could do a series of arts exploration leading up to the proclamation, and then during the proclamation, recognize new programs, new initiatives for the next fiscal year. So within the context of doing a contract with the Texas Guitar Society, Arts Commission recommended these certain dates to latch onto: Mexican Independence Day celebration, performance exhibition of visual art, Texas Guitar Society with manager. September 17th, the City Council meeting, and we're going to ask that Mayor and City Council do a proclamation for National Arts and Humanities Month, all the whereases and all the public relations of Duncanville, arts and social business. September 28th, and 22nd, and 28th is what we're calling Duncanville Arts Week, and multiple sites in the proposed cultural district, all whatever is available to us. We may have to be creative. But the idea, and this goes to you know, what do people want? Well, this is a good way to figure it out. We're just gonna be as creative with as many different arts programmings that we can afford and that we can manage in that time frame. September 24th is the regular meeting for the Arts Commission. September 30th, you'll see in there, there's notes about a gala. Perhaps not a gala, but I think it's important that the Arts Commission hosts some sort of reception for the community to come together to recognize that we are officially open for business in the arts. And if we can announce some full programming for the next fiscal year, that would be a fantastic time to do it. And October 1st is the start of the National Arts and Humanities Month for the new fiscal year. And again, if all the planets align, that would be the start of our grant cycle, funding cycle. So for the next 6 months, in whatever capacity, Arts Commission's recommended that we review grants. And then every 6 months, we find ways to deliver them. But then that would be a wonderful public relations campaign to say Duncanville is beginning to create a cultural district. It would also be a good time to announce any sort of strategic planning, cultural planning. I think when this is brand new, I think planning is important. And if there's a way to incorporate the other boards and commissions and city departments, but also just by the doing. So we can say we held this year 47 public art events, all were free to the community. This was an event. Based on that, then we had private funders or local arts organizations that make Duncanville home X number of ticketed events. And we found that this resulted in ticketed events. So we're going to create a cultural plan or a strategic plan. I think it's important to implement the action as we do it. So let's say there's a 5-year plan for how to develop a 5-year cultural plan when we don't have any means in which to gauge metrics of success. So perhaps in doing the cultural programming, which we believe the community would love, we believe that the community would step up to support it, but we can, as part of a cultural plan or a strategic plan, begin to identify how best the community resonates with the arts. Performing, visual, other capacities. Do they buy tickets? Do they only go to free events? Do sponsors step up? And then that can help gauge that. So I think as we do strategic cultural planning, we have to implement actual what we call field work and doing it at the same time. So those last 2 items, we need you to look hard on because we need recommendations for how we fund the rest of the arts program that leads into the next fiscal year. So ideally, we're at bandwidth, city staff's bandwidth, we need to find some plans that are turnkey. Now the cool thing about the Texas Guitar Society is it's not a nonprofit, it's an LLC, and that's the whole point. They lean in, we need business solutions to solve the arts. So potentially, and I've talked with the 3 gentlemen, they've been to many of our meetings, they want to make Duncanville home. So when the Police Arts Commission brought a brand new arts business. So all that is to say, leading up to the fiscal year, National Arts and Humanities Month, we would love to have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month in September of just preview as many different arts activities we can afford. If the city's able to find resources to fund through public funding, I think it would present an opportunity for us to also go out to private donors and see if they can map some grants, if they can sponsor some things, even if we can crowd fund some things. Hold out for a sold out. If we want to have this jazz concert, you've got to buy a ticket. It's not going to happen until everybody gets a ticket. Things like that. But I think if we have, we say Arts Commission for the city, what we can do, if that sets the stage, then we can be creative for other kinds of funding implementation, but also as we develop a strategic plan that again overlays all these other kinds of boards and commissions. Arts Commission can certainly come up with more exacting. So the last 2 things is obviously we would love to have a mayoral proclamation recognizing National Arts and Humanities Month, all the whereases and all the cool photo ops. And leading up to that, we would love to invite all the community to the Hills Culture District and start experiencing free program. But we're limited on how we can access. It remains budget. So if you look at the proposal, again, not every suggestion they make is gonna be appropriate, but you can see the scope of it and how they're gonna match. Sir.
And I'll just share with you what I just shared with the mayor. Brian, I understand the desire to work with Texas Guitar Society, but the city has a procurement policy. And what I would strongly encourage the Arts Commission to do is put out a request for proposals. There's more than the Texas Guitar Society that does this type of work, so it's not a sole source benefit. And it's not an emergency situation, right? So, in keeping with whether it's city or DCDC procurement policy, if you would go ahead and put out a request for proposals and get a couple of proposals, give people an opportunity to bid on providing you and tell you exactly the scope of work that they would do, then you're gonna come back with, hey, these are the responses we got to the RFP, and here's the cost, and then whether it's the city council doing a budget adjustment, doing something, or even just the DCDC going ahead and funding it for you, then you've done that homework ahead of time.
I guess it doesn't matter. So, you gotta forgive me, because I'm slow, so sometimes I'm playing catch up. So first of all, Texas Guitar Society, so up to 50,000, whatever the amount is, right? So up to that. And so, and I know it, when I was looking through this, you know, almost half of this is already outdated, so I'm sure it's not the whole 50,000. And then, so, but I guess the part I'm kind of playing catch up on is, so, you know, hopefully, by the time we look at approving next year's budget, hopefully there'll be some kind of recurring, some kind of fund established for the arts. But until then, what you have here, I guess, didn't register before, but you're saying we don't have any funds available?
There's no budget. Zero budget. In the current budget, there's $0 budgeted for the Arts Commission. It was set up, excuse me, we did some research and have gone back through some of the different things. It was set up as an advisory council to, as Ron read the powers and duties earlier, to hear all the different things and then make recommendations to city council that there were $0 budgeted. Now, that's not to say city council can't make a budget adjustment, obviously, you guys do that, we do that for us all the time. You can do that, we can ask the DCDC, but then there's still the other piece of the procurement.
So for now, between now and October, I guess the best bet is through the EDC.
They're probably the fastest. And I think that they would strongly entertain it. They're very supportive of the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I would say one thing, I think this meeting was so good, because it's, you know, I was finding the starting point, like, you know, the first year, you're just trying to figure out, what are we doing, right? And I'm really proud of the work that we're not only we've done, but we're trying to do. I think Alex, you did a wonderful job at trying to help us mitigate, our expectations. And so I think that, you know, knowing that we don't, you know, we kind of came with the meeting, know we have the money. But what I love about that is you know where we are. And you also know that without any money, we've been able to do these things. So imagine what we can do when we get a budget. I think like, what I love about this is, you know, when you think of Trinity Groves, I remember the first time I went down there, but I remember when they were first coming, and it was an incubator project. And it was basically a platform given to businesses, you know, restaurateurs that wanted to be like, hey, I want to have my own restaurant, they can afford it, right? And I look at it, it's a great place to go. They turned around and used it as catalyst. Now there's a bridge, there's everything going on, and I think that we are at a great starting point. Even though we may not have the funds, I think we have the passion and the purpose, and I think the money will always come, right? So thank you guys for even just taking your evening out today, and just being able to say after working hard and serving everybody, for taking time to serve us as the Arts Commission, as we're trying to find our footing in this community. So I really appreciate that.
So, to piggyback on that, that's really important as a brand new commission. We've really seen everything. And it's incredibly important for you guys to know that put with us phenomenal staff. Everyone thinks Alex Campbell, he's a rock for all of us, and we are so fortunate that I get to work with the commissioners I do, and then somebody's putting on taking this by way of this conversation. We get a lot of advice from more mature commissions and arts administrators. And one of the things that they always say, you've got to have a champion on the city council. And I say, absolutely, sincerely, no, honestly, everybody in our city council is a champion. And we do a lot of work in this city because you guys match our work. And we appreciate it. So, is there any further business?
No, it's just a general comment. First of all, just thank all of you again. I know I thanked you before, but I mean, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you're doing, because, and I'm saying this for me, is that what y'all are doing right now may be some of the most important work that's going on in the city of Duncanville, because people need to be inspired, right? They need to be motivated, and right now they need, some reason to have some pride in where they live, because for us, kind of what we're struggling with right now, it's hard to get people on boards and commissions, right? And yes, people do ride around and look and say, man, the city could look better, in so many words, right? And so when they start to see that, the art going up, and they start to see the paintings and the spaces that reflect them, and that's going to motivate people and inspire them, make them want to get involved and want to get participate in building up their community. So I mean, this is important stuff that y'all are doing, and y'all are going to drive, the direction the city goes culturally. Y'all are going to be in the driver's seat. And I encourage you to exercise your responsibility in that as well, because there's a certain amount of power that's involved in that. So, thank you.
I want to quickly add, I've been in Duncanville for 43 years now, as a private citizen, as a city employee, and of course as an elected official. Many of you have been here that long. We've been talking about this since the early 90s. What is the niche of Duncanville? We're not talking about niches tonight, but everything's been put before us about what Duncanville, the railroad, our history, our culture. We talk about it. We've talked about it forever. And to spin off of something Jeremy reminded me of with his comments is, this is the first time I've really felt like this may be it. This could be the beginning of something that nobody else has down here, that could draw people eventually from all over the metroplex, if not further out, because we have something special here. And with the comments made earlier about the cultural aspect of what our comprehensive plan will entertain, and the artistic aspect of that, this may very well be what draws people to Duncanville.
Okay, I'm gonna say will do.
Okay, well, I'll go that route. We will be. So this is amazing. It's been amazing to listen to everybody's comments. When the meeting started, the gentleman that had some additional comments, I'm sure he's gonna have more to say. And we welcome it. But thank you all for all your hard work and inviting us here to meet with you tonight, because this has been a real eye opener, and it's exciting. Very exciting time. So thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So I think that concludes business for the Arts Commission.
And we will close our council portion at 8:29.